Well, that cover 3 patch was a doozy, wasn't it? What is up, guys? Zan from the Madden YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to introduce the cover 4 quarters defense and its base rules. Now, this is a coverage that a lot of players assume is a zone coverage call when they call it in Madden, and they get confused as to why players start to run wide open or why their deep zones are following players instead of dropping to certain areas of the field. And I was on stream the other day and I kind of just realized that as we sat in practice mode, I was like 5 hours into my stream and I hadn't played a single snap of online head-to-head. No weekend league, no MUT seasons.
I love it! Come on, let's go!
And there were a lot of players in the chat that day, and it kind of just dawned on me that maybe I needed to go ahead and start breaking down the cover 4 match family of coverages for people to better understand exactly what their players are supposed to be doing and how to get more stops in Madden 22. So for this video, I'm going to break down the very core template basics of the match quarters defense. Now, the really cool thing about this is you don't have to run a specific formation, but I have broken down the entirety of the cover 7 match or the match quarters family of coverages. And if you guys go over to my strategy website, gridirongameplans.gg, you guys will find my match quarters game plan where I break down quarters and palms. And we also break down cover 6, cover 9, cover 6 invert, and the rules of all of these coverages. And there are a lot of rules, but in this game plan, I've taken all of the legwork out of it for you. I break down press versus off coverage rules. I break down 2x2 versus 3x1 rules. I break down the solo check, the special check, how to cut the tight end, shallow cross in trips tight end, how to defend crossers, how to defend bunch sets, which is probably the most important part of the game plan. You guys can go over to Gridiron Game Plans and for $9.95 per month, unlock the entire website. And that includes our weekly vault updates where we take a look at the meta or the most effective tactics available that are being used by pro players on the MCS circuit. For instance, the gun bunch offense and how we're gonna kind of break down in that vault or in those game plans, how to counter that offense with this particular match defense that not a lot of players are running online right now. So let's go ahead and get into today's video. And we're gonna kind of just break down the template of this coverage and how it starts off and what the rules are for it. So we're going to go ahead and just do this out of the nickel 245. The cool thing about that game plan is you can call any formation that has match coverage for quarters rules. So for instance, the 335 wide has the cover 4 show 2. So if you guys like this video, obviously you could apply some of those principles into that particular play if you wish. But let's go ahead and take the field here. Cover 4 quarters against a 2x2 spread set. So when we take a look here, the way that you number the offensive formation and the way that the quarters match system operates as a whole is based off of numbers and spacing of the receivers. So when you guys run a 2x2 set, what we're talking about is 2 receivers to the left and the right of the quarterback. And the way that you would number them is outside to inside. So Eskridge here would be the number 1. Everett would be the number 2. And then on the other side, you would have Metcalf as the number 1 and Lockett as the number 2. The number 3 is to the right of the quarterback here, and that is a running back in the backfield. However, if he were to be split out, he would still serve as number 3. Now, again, there are rules for 2x2 with the number 3 in the backfield versus 2x3 where it is an empty set. So again, there are a lot of different rules for these coverages, and this is why players get confused as to why certain things run wide open when it's really maybe you shaded something, maybe you were usering and didn't know you were responsible for matching a route all the way and you let it run wide open. There's a lot of different variables, but again, we take the legwork out of this for you on the strategy website. So let's go ahead and talk about, from a defensive perspective, what we do with our assignments. Now, you'll notice along the back of this defense, there are 4 deep blue zones. These are technically man match zones. And what that means is that they play relative to the receiver that is in front of them. So if we were to take a look at DK Metcalf on the far left of the formation, we would be breaking down Young versus Metcalf. If we were to take a look at this inside safety on the left side, Elliott, he is going to be playing relative to the number 2 receiver on his side of the field, which is the slot receiver behind this quarter flat. The same thing can be said of Chuck Clark here on his inside quarter. He is playing relative to the number 2 receiver on his side of the field. And then, of course, much like Metcalf on the left with the number 1 receiver, Jimmy Smith will be on the number 1 receiver right here. So as you can kind of see, this is the way this kind of matches up. Now, I'm going to respot the ball here and allow these players to get reset. Let's go through how the underneath zones operate. The underneath zones in this coverage are 2 quarter flats and 1 3 receiver hook. The quarter flat against a 2x2 formation is responsible for jamming the slot receiver if he releases vertically off the line to pass him off to the safety behind him, who will then pick him up man to man. The landmark that a receiver must reach to be considered a vertical threat is 10 yards. So if you see right here, the ball spotted on the 40, if the player basically gets to midfield or pretty close to midfield on their route, that will convert the man into match coverage. And the same is basically said of the outside receivers, where if Metcalf runs a vertical route to, roughly the sticks, Young will convert into man-to-man on him, and that will end up being the matchup the rest of the way. If he runs a post, he'll follow him to the post. If he runs a corner, he'll stay on the corner. If he runs an in route, if he runs anything, a double move, Young is responsible for man-to-man. Now, the other zone underneath is going to be the 3-rec hook. The 3-rec hook has responsibility to basically flow with the pre-snap number 3 receiver. So in the case of the running back, that is Chris Carson here, the 3rd receiver to the right side, numbering outside to inside, 1, 2, and 3. He will basically play relative to that. So when you talk about a 3 receiver hook, they kind of jump to the 3 receiver side of the formation, or the side with more receiving options. Now, their job post snap is actually to find who the new number 3 is, and we'll get to that in a moment. But let's start off with a simple verticals attack here. So I'm going to run 4 verticals, and I'm just going to send the running back out into the flat here. And with this particular play call, you're going to notice that Metcalf goes vertical past 10 yards. Sideline's going to pick him up man-to-man. Both of our seam or our slot receivers are running seams, and they're both going to get to a vertical landmark of 10 yards, in which the quarter flats will jam them and release them to the safeties, who will pick them up man-to-man. Lockett is on an option route. He can run a post or he can stay in the seam depending on the coverage. So he'll break to one spot or the other. Regardless, that safety will be responsible for him. And then our running back is going to run a simple flare out of the backfield to the field. And if we go ahead and snap this ball, you're going to notice that everything is going to apply. Reroutes, everything is matched. Now, this is a coverage that naturally requires athletes, because your safeties aren't just zone droppers. These are guys that need to be able to run with wide receivers. So this can be, a spot that sometimes, if you realize as an offensive player, oh, hey, I've got potentially a matchup that I can exploit at this safety spot with one of my better receivers. If I could get him to make a cut that beats man-to-man coverage, then we've got an option to be able to win here. So you see right here that there was no breakdown in this coverage. It was just the receiver got open. Now, I want to go ahead and talk about the 3-rec on this play as well. So this 3-rec player, as I mentioned, is going to play relative to the number 3 receiver. So when this running back flares out of the backfield, he's going to flow that direction. And then he's going to, once this quarter flat gets his reroute on the slot receiver, pass him off. And you see that the quarter flat will then match the running back out of the backfield in man-to-man coverage. So basically what this coverage is it's kind of this zone drop initially, and then convert an attacker route in man-to-man. Now that was against a simple 4 verticals concept. So I want to go ahead and obviously start to get into how this starts to work with, some underneath attacking concepts. So let's say that we were to run maybe like a mesh concept here. With this concept here, obviously our slot receivers are not running vertical routes. So what that is going to do is that is going to change what our safeties are then able to do in this coverage, because they no longer have to play a person man-to-man. They basically get to drop and become post defenders. I am a big proponent of using the weak side inside quarter in cover 4 quarters, because this gives me a lot of freedom if my man does not go vertical to basically rob the field. I can jump underneath and pick off, you know, slants, or I can bracket a crosser coming from the other side. I can run and poach a post route coming from the other side. There's a lot of different things I can do. But as you see here, if you know that those slot receivers are not running vertical attacking routes, these guys are freestyle or wild card players. And we'll go ahead and show you how this looks here. So with this, we're running a mesh with a backside dig, running back flare, vertical to our B receiver, running down the right sideline. So I'm going to click off of Queen here, and we'll break down how this goes. So you see here with this concept that everybody matches appropriately on this play, and there's a lot of stress on the underneath 3 defenders, which are the 2 quarter flats and the 3 rec hook. So you see here with this, our number 3 receiver swings to the outside. That becomes the quarter flats man. So he goes out and picks that up. Meanwhile, we've got a mesh underneath. The job of the 3 rec hook is to pick up the new number 3 receiver. So I want to freeze this. Look at the route combination here. We've got 2 receivers to this side of the field, and we've got 3 options to this side of the field. So naturally, our 3 rec hook is responsible for getting to the 3 rec side, and he goes and matches that drag across the field while the quarter flat takes the swing. Now on the backside, the read here that we look at is probably going to be the dig. You've got all this action occupying your underneath, then you've got this dig cutting across the middle to DK Metcalf. As I mentioned, this is why I really like to user this safety right here, because we have the ability when we see as a user, so if we take a look, we're usering number 32. If we don't see our slot receiver run a vertical route, we can then say, okay, I'm going to poach this dig. If you let the AI do it, they drift backwards, which is, again, zone is not great. And that's why we're doing this video. Is I think man match is better than, you know, zone coverage, zone drop. So you're going to see here with this, we've got freedom to then maybe fly down and pick off this lane that could be open on the dig. Or I could get back into this area. If I'm expecting this guy to maybe run a skinny post, I could recover back into this area and take that. Or if I wanted to, I could use this safety. It's a little bit more responsibility, because in theory, if, you know, just because our guy goes underneath doesn't mean that the running back couldn't get vertical out of the backfield. But we just need to be looking to make sure nobody's cutting vertically up the seam on our side of the field, on the 3 receiver side of the formation pre-snap. And then we could go ahead and look backside to poach that dig as well, or, you know, help out cutting one of those drags. Maybe I fly, you know, straight down into this area and try to pick off a drag, or there's a lot of freedom is what I'm getting at in this defense. Now, this doesn't mean that this defense is perfect. There's a lot of different things that impact how this defense works. I just wanted to provide you kind of the template for how this works. I do want to finish with one final route combination here to kind of show you what happens with the outside receivers when their man does not go vertical. So I'm going to call a play like smash. And in fact, I'm going to use smoke routes instead, just in case. So in this route combination, our outside receivers do not go vertical. Our inside receivers do go vertical, and we're leaving the back end to protect. So in this situation, our outside defensive backs, Young and Jimmy Smith, basically have freedom to drop into outside quarter zones, which will help bracket those slot corner routes and make those a little bit tougher to throw. So you see here how if I roll out to the right, that corner route was covered. So that's one of the benefits of how this defense works, is that you basically have these guys that when their man doesn't go vertical, they look to help out their teammates. And you see right here that not only did he drop off the ball into an outside deep zone, he actually converted into man-to-man on this guy to prevent them from throwing the down and outside pass lead to that slot receiver. Now, if you can imagine, if that guy were to be matching the smoke route in the flat, which there are ways to make him do that in quarters. And again, go check out the strategy website, gridirongameplans.gg. If 36 were left man-to-man with him, that cut actually beats him. But because we've got a guy dropping on the outside into that throwing lane, not only on that side, but also on this side, you see the exact same thing happening. You've got the reroute of the slot receiver being bracketed now by both deep zones on that side of the field. That takes that away. Now, again, guys, this is just the very, very simple bare bones of this coverage defense. This is a very, very good defense for Madden purposes, especially against a lot of the bunch sets. It can be very, very good against the trips tight end meta. There's a lot on the website, but I make it very, very simple for you guys. Like I said, quarters versus palms, 2x2 versus 3x1, trips tight end versus bunch, press versus off coverage, special check, solo check, cut rules, all different types of things that are going to allow you to understand exactly what your players are going to do and help identify where the weakness is in your coverage, who's your best user candidate, and also some slight adjustments that you can make to make sure that you are bomb proof. Because obviously with this being a man-based coverage, you will sometimes end up with safeties one-on-one with receivers, and you want to make sure that they even have protection as well. So if you guys like this breakdown, make sure you guys go check out the website. I've got a full game plan available for you guys on the website that will help you guys better understand and probably play the best coverage that you played so far this year in Madden 22. If you guys like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Make sure you guys subscribe here to the channel and hit that notification bell so you know every single day when I upload on the channel. Hopefully I'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Until then, this is Ann. Get in the lab and good luck.